Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yes.
Still stuck in hospital
Oh,
though, but
I was gonna say,
okay.
yeah, and then you lifted your arm. Oh no.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh, I picked up a virus while we were in on holiday in Mauritius
Oh,
on day 3, and it just
oh,
triggered such a bad
thanks.
exacerbation in the lungs. So yeah,
Oh.
need some trim and oil change and new e-filters, Holly.
So what do they do when it flares up?
Yeah, so the main thing is just IV antibiotics.
Mhm.
Um, physio, biokineticist, you know, but
How do you do physio? Just breathing exercises?
yeah, so it's a combination
Okay.
between percussions and breathing exercises and just moving all the secretions as quick as possible.
Yeah. So are you home or are you still in your
Now I'm,
vacation location?
now I'm still stuck in the almost vacation. Yeah.
Location.
Yeah.
Did your family go
So,
home? I have no
yeah, no, we
idea
don't. No,
where
we
things
don't see
are.
each other. We are very far from each other. So we haven't seen each other now for 10 days. So I
Oh,
can't wait to go home tomorrow.
oh, tomorrow. Good.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Hey, Christine.
Hi.
How is the rest of your vacation up
Oh,
in the
yeah,
mountains?
I forgot. Yeah, it was really good. And I wasn't going to be here for another hour, but I jammed out on my other meeting because I just was hating it anyways. So I just said,
Yeah,
sorry, I'm not doing this anymore. And bye.
good for
So
you.
here I am at the one that I want to be at. And it's good to see you, Rita.
Thanks, Christine. I'm glad to see you as well.
We've really lucked out with each other in this course. It's amazing.
So true.
Were you all off last week for, I mean, I know you were Cheryl Tuesday, but were you off the week before for mentoring? Okay, that's what I thought.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Well,
So,
we didn't really do the mentoring because of
because,
Cheryl's
oh,
brother. We kind of
yes.
are picking it all up right now. Like she did a
Okay.
mentoring session with me. I don't know if she did yours yet, Rita, but it was just after the fact, which was totally cool with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was horrible. Um, yeah, so any questions or comments about anything so far you guys have been thinking about?
I felt the supervised coaching is quite tough, and I thought the journey will become a little bit easier, to be honest. But it became, for me, more challenging. I think being more aware of everything that we're looking for. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm now in that phase where I think, oh, okay, apologies for the word, oh shit. Maybe I should have never endeavored this journey. So, yeah, I think we're now almost getting to the point where we know even more and deeper. Um, yeah, it's almost like it's getting real for me.
When you say supervised coaching, do you mean the in-class coaching or just like recording and sending them to Cheryl or just
Mm.
all of it in general?
All of it in general.
In general.
Everybody listening and everybody having an opinion.
I'm
That
the
is
same
fair.
way though.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way because in last class I was the one to coach and I thought I did a lot better than what I was marked on. And so I walked away not upset or anything, but thinking, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, I really have to pick it up. And, and my husband says, how was your day? And I was like, oh my gosh, and so I went off to him about this session and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel really not overwhelmed. I guess I feel for the moment, I feel that because I know that I'm competent and capable of learning anything. But
Yeah.
I feel like, am I going to learn it in time before this course is done? And
Yeah.
am I going to make it? And, you know, and I guess too, because I just found out last week that my day job is ending in December.
Mm.
So now this is it.
Yeah.
This is it now. And there's no
No
fallback.
pressure.
And it's good though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
perfect. That's just what I need is to be done my job and be able to focus on this. But now I guess it makes me feel more concerned because now I'm on this rush to get rid of all my clients and to get all their stuff done. And we don't have much time. So I feel like I don't have the time that I need to, I guess, brush up enough on what I need to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you do, Rita. Like, oh my goodness gracious. And it's okay. I mean, I passed an ACC course before.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can do it again. It's just that the way Cheryl's doing it creates a better outcome for us. It's just not as laid back as the
Yeah.
other one that I took. So I'm grateful for it. I'm happy about it. I'm
Yeah.
just still a little, whew, you know?
Yeah.
So
And I mean,
it's not just you, Rita. I'm there with you.
and the blessing of having Cheryl is she can do assessments. So she's going to give you feedback that's like really almost you could pass the PCC, right? Like she wants us to succeed to the fullest. So she's always in a good way, like I think pushing, challenging, like however. But I will say myself, when I went to do my recordings for the PCC, I just freaked out. I mean, I've been teaching, I've been coaching, I have no problem. But then I started recording for, to send in my stuff. And I just couldn't. My brain was just like it exploded and it could no longer focus. And so we all get those like moments at times where it's like, okay, we just have to kind of get out of our heads. But that's what I had to do. I think the key thing to do is as far as like the areas where you need to improve is I would just focus on one. Like you have a few times left coaching each other, so focus on one area in the next session, and then the next session focus on another. Like don't try to fix them all at one time. Focus on one and get that and feel comfortable with that, play around with it. The other thing that I use all the time is you've talked about silence some, and we'll talk about it more today, but practicing silence is huge. And it's especially huge when it comes to wanting to get things right, like for recordings, or when we like lose where we are, like with the client, or we have like a brain fart and you just kind of have to like regroup really quickly. Is you can look down and pretend that you're taking a note, because if you're taking notes anyways, the client's used to you looking down and taking a note. So looking down, pretend to take a note, but really like refocus your brain, right? And think about, okay, what do I need to ask next? Or what am I missing right now? Or what am I trying to work on? Right. So really taking those long pauses. And as much as we talk about the pauses being for the client, I think they also are a lot of times for us as well, just to keep, ourselves listening, to keep ourselves not distracted, to sometimes think of the next question, just depends. So as you're practicing the things that you're, needing to improve upon, I would do one at a time, not try all of them in one session. And I would really take advantage of pausing as you're doing sessions and pretending that you're taking notes. And none of us are going to judge that, right? Like, been in the shoes, right? We've all been in the shoes already. You guys are just doing it again. But the long pauses are so great because that's what the ICF wants, right? They want us to be leaving space for the client. So it's not even a mark, not even a mark against you in any way, shape, or form. Because if we're not taking them and giving them, then that is a mark against us. So really, utilize the silence, utilize it, pretend it's your new best friend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think what has helped though is when I got my EQ assessment back. And because I mean, I've started a business before, I've done other things before. I've been greatly successful when I've done those things. And so I have to keep going back to those every time I feel this fear of like, I'm not gonna make it through this course, or when the course is over, I'm gonna flop when it comes to building my business, or all of these things. I found that has helped because it really did reiterate some things I already knew about myself.
Yeah.
When it comes to being able to pivot and do those things. So that has helped greatly. I mean, she has some tools here that have been really paramount in building confidence and feeling like I can do these things just as much as there's areas where I'm feeling like I can't.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Great as well.
Yeah.
So I just need to share the story, Christine, with you. You're going to have such a laugh. So I phoned one of my old clients and I said to her, listen, I need an extra recording. Would you be willing? And she's also very high up in teaching and education. So she had no issues to quickly jump in and do a recording because I lost our recording, of course. And so at the end of the session, I asked her, I said, so do you have feedback for me? And she's like, I think you must sit still more. And I was sitting on the edge of the hospital bed with my feet on the hospital trolley. So every time I was moving my feet, the trolley is going.
Well, there you go.
Oh
Very
no.
good comment, but I'm on a hospital trolley. Like Rita, that's only you that will try to coach while you're on a hospital trolley.
Oh no. Do you have to
You're
do it
making great
again?
progress. Oh no, you
And
know what?
you could have just phoned me. I would have done as many as you need.
Oh, thank you so much.
Like
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I've just decided I'm also going to embrace the humor part of this journey.
Yeah.
Guys, you have to keep it real and just be like the hospital trolley. So the lesson learned, be comfortable where you're sitting. Make sure that the hospital trolley doesn't move.
Well, and I think what you're saying too is so like important as far as like just being ourselves and coaching. So if we're just going to be ourselves in coaching, right, and like bring ourselves to the client, then we're also going to bring some of our blondness and mistakes and to the things, and all we can do is, like you said, all you can do is laugh It just is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Do you need to redo the session?
Okay, Holly, I decided I'm going to be brave and I'm going to send it to Cheryl. I think the
Okay.
content, um, I'd love actually the feedback on the content, which I think was
Yeah.
more important.
Right.
And then I, on a different platform, found our first session. So yeah, I've got now two sessions that I can send into Cheryl. Um, and I just want to, I feel very relieved because I don't have to pass the ICS recordings. I passed that with my
Yeah.
first time in the first school. So I think it's a lot of pressure relief there, but that
Hmm.
makes it more possible to connect almost with the reality of it all with Cheryl because I don't
Hmm.
have the pressure of being scored. It's just like, let me be a better coach,
Yeah.
without the pressure of the score. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think it is important to just enjoy the ride as well and keep it
Yeah.
real.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you guys need any sessions, won't probably be real. Well, I'll be with you all next week, but I won't be available to be coached. But after that, in October, if you guys need somebody, because I am getting married and moving all the next few days, and like moving states, and like my life is upheavaling a little bit.
Oh,
Like there's the huge benefit of it, but then there's the like, oh, just like the heartbreak of it. But I'm coming back to South Carolina in a year. So I have plenty that I can be coached on if you guys need somebody for a recording.
I do.
fine.
Okay.
Yes.
I do. I guess my issue right now is so I've just started up with a new coaching platform,
Hmm.
right? So that way, because I have this group, Facebook group of 25,000 women
Yeah.
that I'm a top contributor in this group,
Hmm.
right? Gratefully that I've done that through this last
Yeah.
couple of years I've been in it. And I messaged the head person of the group and asked them if
Yeah.
I would be able to do some coaching for free, of course, right? She
Yeah.
said, yeah, that's no problem. I think what's holding me back from doing it is I really want to immediately turn them into clients. Like
Mm.
I have that position set up. So
Yeah.
I want to have that coaching platform, just the basics even of it set up so that they can go into there and
Hmm.
schedule with me and do things. Because my goal is to use them to also learn how to use the platform.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of
It's a good.
holding me back, and I have to do that this weekend. I just find my time is very limited right now. So it would be great if I could coach with you, and that would give me at least another week to get that
Mhm.
done with the ladies because I have to have my next coaching in with Cheryl for some time here for September 27th.
Oh, next week. Let me pull it.
But mm, we can do a coaching session, although I decided I'm a very difficult client.
You have a very difficult topic.
No, no, no. I decided I am a very difficult client because I'm very
Oh,
indecisive. Very. But if you need me, I'm yours.
yeah, see,
Well,
that's good
yeah,
too.
we could do next Tuesday or Thursday before or after class because I've already got like that time booked, right? Like I'm already gonna
Um,
in my
Okay,
brain.
hold
So
on. Let me just look quickly. What is this? Oh my gosh. I have to look at my work schedule. Next Tuesday or Thursday. So that's the 24th, right?
yes,
What is that? So I have a 10 a.m. and after, I have nothing after on the
okay,
Tuesday. So I'm just going to put something in there right now. Um, so
you want to
that way
say noon?
no one can schedule with me.
Good job.
Um, so for me that's like 1:30 and that's fine. I'm gonna put it till 2:30 just to make sure no one can get anything in there.
Well, you have class till 3:30.
We're on a different time
Oh,
zone.
that's right. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry. I'll
okay.
stop
I'm
talking. I
booking it.
totally
Yeah,
forgot that.
I'm booking it right after our class right now. So that's the 24th. And I'm just gonna check my personal calendar as well, just to make sure there's no conflicts. Otherwise, no, I can do that.
Okay. You want to do before or after?
After, I can't do it
Okay.
before because I have a meeting
Perfect.
right before, like a
Gotcha.
meeting right until
Yeah.
I'm
Now
leaving
when you
one
say 10
meeting and
o'clock,
going
that
into,
makes, yeah.
yeah, I'm leaving one meeting and going into the next
Yeah.
meeting, and then I'm in with you. So it's like
Okay.
basically I stopped clients from being able to meet with me on Wednesdays and Fridays, so that way I have a whole day to work uninterrupted. So
Good.
it kind of makes my Tuesdays and Thursdays a little bit crazy, but it is what it is. Thank you
Okay. Did
so
you guys,
much.
you're welcome. You were welcome. If, did you guys get a chance to download chapter 9?
Yes.
I don't know how things are working for you, Rita. Do you have your laptop? Do you have a pad, like a Chromebook,
Yeah,
iPad, or just your phone?
I've got my laptop with me and my phone.
Oh, good.
So yeah, I've tried my
Good.
best to keep up. Yeah, don't worry.
Oh, feel bad for you. So we're going to talk about active listening and then reflecting back to our client today. And this really is such a big core competency, I would say. I mean, I shouldn't pick between the 8, right? Like we shouldn't have favorites. We need to love all 8 core competencies. But I think if I was to say 2 that we like, you can do these and you'll do the rest, is active listening and then creating awarenesses, which we're either talking about on next Tuesday or next Thursday. So it's coming. Thought it was so interesting to look at the comparison of listening versus hearing, because I had never thought of that. Like when I learned, it was active listening and it was active, like that was it. It was active listening. I never thought about the difference. There's just listening and active listening, but really it's hearing and listening. Um, and so how hearing is just so passive because we can hear so many things around us at all times. All of us can listen. Now, whether we choose to tune in to what we're hearing, that's the other thing, right? That's when it turns into actually listening. So when I moved to Austria, and I was learning German the first 6 months, the first month or two, when I would get on the streetcar to go from my apartment to my German lesson classes, was quite a long, like I don't know, 45-minute commute. But there's people all around me speaking German. And I remember like, oh, yay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen. And what I realized was I couldn't. Like it was too much to truly try to listen. So I just stopped. I just mentally tuned it out. So what I was really doing was just hearing, right? Like in the Snoopy teacher, wah, 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 right? That's just like letting it go around in my brain. But I do believe that, a few months later into it, because I was just wah, 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 was just getting used to like the sounds and the formulation of the new vowels and how they put consonants together and the Austrian dialect and, versus High German. that then when I did start to tune in and actively listen, it had so much impact on me because I was able to really pick it up. I was kind of able to tune in to like, okay, can I hear a conversation behind me or can I hear the one in front of me? Right. And, you know, they talk really quiet in Europe. I mean, all of us Americans talk too loud, but like, so, you know, in other countries where it's at a normal decimal, you have to really listen. So they had to be talking in front of me or behind me. Um, but yeah, so just really thinking when you go to work on active listening, really in your brain going, okay, am I tuning in? Am I like really tuning in? Or am I just wah, 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 wah? Am I hearing or am I really listening? And when we're listening, people can tell, right? It's really hard to eavesdrop on a conversation when you're like at a lunch table, or like you're at a conference and you're like trying to listen to someone else's conversation, but you're supposed to be talking to the person in front of you, right? They can usually tell. Or you're like trying to pretend you're not listening to a conversation, but someone can usually tell because you have to really tune into it, like focus on it. Um, so that is what we are talking about, is really tuning in to our clients, really clearing our minds so that we can focus on what they are saying. What are they saying? And what are they saying and what are they not saying? So whenever we talk about active listening, I always like to talk about what's the saying? Oh, read between the lines, right? We have to like sometimes you have to read between the lines to pick it up. Well, with our clients, we have to listen between the lines. So we need to listen to what they're not saying just as much as what they are saying. Yeah, Christine.
So last class, I was talking about, I have found recently, it did not happen the first class, but recently I have found in my coaching, I'm struggling not to ask leading questions. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
and I've really been considering that. And I thought, what is the root of that? And I've never had the issue before. So why is that a thing now? And I think part of it, well, I think it is that I keep hearing so much about, well, we're reading between the lines about what's not being said.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that translates to, well, I'm hearing what they're not saying, and I'm
Yeah,
responding to what they're not saying, which turns into leading
leading.
to for me.
Yeah.
So how do I differentiate? Because I guess I'm
Mm-hmm.
not understanding what's the purpose of listening to what they're not saying.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this is where the note taking, not note taking will come in handy again for us as coaches. And also, if you feel like you're really struggling with it and until you can kind of just get it back on track without having to think about it, I would put the 5, I call them the star 5 words, the who, what, when, where, how, star 5. I would put them at the top of your page, like your notes, and head down, pretend you're taking a note, quick deep breath, and just think, okay, what's the question I want to ask? And quickly try to like pull out like the verb that you're trying to ask or like the subject. Basically, what are you trying to ask? Right, I'm trying to ask about I don't know, let's pretend that what we're hearing between the lines is that they're really frustrated that they're not saying that. So instead of saying what I'm hearing you say, or we couldn't do that, or you could do that, but well, the way to turn, I can't think of how to say it wrong now, but what you would do is go, okay, I want to ask them about frustrations, right?
Yeah.
So I would say something about, um, So when do you find yourself getting frustrated with the situation? So now you've like taken one of the star five to start your question, right? And when you do it that way, it's open ended. It leaves it open to the client. Now, and what that does and what that allows, and this is where it can get tricky, is it allows the client to say back to you, I got frustrated, Christine. And you've got to go, oh, hey. And then you got to move on, right? But you're giving the client the chance, or the client's going to go, oh, is that what I'm doing? Or they're going to go, oh, I haven't thought about that. Or, gosh, I think that really is what's going on. Like I'm calling it anger, but it's frustration, or I'm calling it this, but it's that.
Okay, I don't know. I think I have a bit of confusion still because in our last session, I was
Mm-hmm.
coaching Rita, and I had said to her how much of what you're feeling or going through or whatever could be
Mm-hmm.
attributed to boundaries
Yeah.
or, or lack of boundaries or whatever it was that I said. And Cheryl said that was leading.
Yes. So what you have to do is keep it very short. Where have you set your boundaries in this situation?
Can I quickly
Something
jump in
where,
here?
yeah.
Christine, so I think what I took from our session was that Cheryl felt you and I didn't do what are we focusing on? And she
Yes,
felt introducing the boundaries was a bit too soon because we haven't
yes.
established the agreement. So that's how I took it,
Okay.
that she wants us to do the agreement, make sure that we know what the initial, what are we going to do for this session without us leading. So I think
Mm-hmm.
if we do the same question, but we could hold it off just until the agreement has been established and introduce it kind of in the area of new scenes coming forward. So just a little bit later in the coaching session.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that changes things. Yeah. And I would just
That's really what I felt.
Well, and I
follow.
was thinking the same thing. And I was actually going to get to that. Sorry, I was a bit slow, but thank you for just cutting to the chase, Rita. Yeah, I was going to get to that because I was confused because I felt like I worded it, the
Mhm.
question, the way you're talking about, but she
Yeah.
said that it was leading. So I guess what I was
Mhm.
going to get to is, would that not have been leading had I asked it at a different time?
Probably would not have been leading. It would have worked later
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Right. Because if you're setting up the agreement, you don't know what she fully wants to accomplish yet. Right. So I would, the script from the very first class, right, that just gives you questions to ask under each core
Hmm.
competency, I would just write out like your own, okay, these are the 3 questions I'm going to ask to get my agreement, or the 4 questions I'm going to ask to get my agreement. And I'm not going to ask anything else
Mm.
if you're
Okay.
struggling to get
Okay.
them to narrow that down.
Because that was really my issue. And I also feel like there's a really big difference. Because I was first with World Coach Institute,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how I met Cheryl.
Yeah.
And in there, when we went through our ACC, our
Mm-hmm.
initial
Yeah.
course, it was very different than this. There was no reading between the lines. There was no, figuring out what the actual, hearing what they're not
Mm-hmm.
saying. It wasn't like that. It was very cut
Mm-hmm.
and dry, right? And I find now it's a little bit different, and I like it different because that's where I feel like I'm actually going to shine and I'm
Yeah.
really going to be able to help them. But I also think there's a fine line with leading then, or there can be.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to be clearer in that area of what leading looks like and what it doesn't look like.
Yeah.
And in chapter 8, there are a whole bunch of questions here as well for structuring the agreement, engagement, and
Yeah,
exploration. So I'm going to
I
be
would use
putting
those.
those in my cheat sheet as well.
Yeah, those are great. Yes, use those. I mean, I think it is, because I went to WCI as well. It is really thinking about, and WCI was great, and I'm really thankful for that. But it was very just black and white. This, that,
Yes,
this,
yes.
that, and that is just, we're not robots. And if we really want to help our clients transform and move forward in life, then we've got to do a little bit more than just, you know, check the box of listening or check the box
Mhm.
of creating awarenesses, which you're seeing now as we're like kind of going back through these things. I think the biggest thing with leading is, has the client talked about it? Okay, if the client hasn't talked about it, then you have to go, how can I bring this up in a proper way? So the one time that we can kind of, no, I don't even want to say that. You want to think about, can I put this in a sentence, in a question that is open-ended and allows the client to respond in any direction? If we ask a question and it's open-ended, but it still is steering the client a certain way, like, oh yeah, like they can answer it however they want, but we're definitely kind of heading down this way, then it's leading. I
Okay.
don't have a good definition of that. That wasn't very good. I'm going to make a note of that.
All right.
Okay. So when we are actively listening and tuning in, then we're naturally fully present, right? So back to like this being such an important core competency. If we're actively listening and tuning in, then by default, we will be present in the coaching session. We will be walking alongside our client, putting aside our agenda because we're really listening for what does the client want or need to talk about in the session. And we let our thoughts and our ideas go. So just kind of like cleansing your palate before you enter into the session. And then, you know, we're all doing this on video these days, but you still can demonstrate body language. In fact, I think it comes across stronger or kinder on a video screen because you can't see the way the legs are pointed and all the other things. So, you know, like leaning back and asking questions to your client, like that's not good body language. You guys know that. But, you know, really like bending in and listening and looking at them on the screen, not looking around. That's the body language of like, I'm open and I'm here to receive what you have to say. Right. And even though we can't talk, which is very hard, that's a hard one for me to break, is not because I grew up with, yeah. And I always felt like if someone didn't, or yeah, they weren't listening to me. And it's not, that goes back to hearing, right? Like, were they even hearing me? Were they even, anyways, let me forget that example. That's getting complicated. But so I find it hard to not, because that is a cue I would always give and grew up with, and like my grandma Davis did, taking that out. But we can nod. we can keep the computer eye contact. We want to keep our emotions out of it, but that doesn't mean if our client is crying that we can't tear up, right? Or if our client is smiling and laughing and excited, that we're sitting here all stoic and holding the space. Like we want to enter in with them. And then another thing as far as active listening is we want to work on paraphrasing. So that goes to what I started to say, Christine, when you were talking about boundaries. What you could paraphrase had she been talking about something you weren't this was further in the session, and she was talking, and what you're hearing is there's not a lot of boundaries. You could say something like, what I'm hearing you say is you're struggling with boundaries right now, right? Or whatever the client is saying, us re-saying that back to them, really concise and short, that's our way of letting the client know that we're listening. Instead of, yeah, the way we do that is in paraphrasing. And when we paraphrase back, it gives the client the opportunity to hear what they've actually said. Yeah, Christine?
Okay. So if Rita, for instance, is talking about something, and I recognize that what she's really talking about is a boundary issue, right? Maybe she's not recognizing it is a boundary issue, but that's what she's actually talking about in a nutshell. And I paraphrase back to her, what I'm hearing is this is a boundary issue. How correct would that be? Then she has the issue of saying, yes, no, I never thought about it that way. That's not leading them.
As long as you stopped. I wasn't sure if you were stopping at what I'm hearing is there might be some boundary issues.
And I would follow it up with how correct with no.
You can, yes.
Okay.
But
I thought that's part of the competencies, asking them, following up with, is this correct? Do I have that right? Correct?
Yes, phrasing it that way. I thought you were kind of going into two like big, like multiple questions all at one time. That's why I was saying I'm not sure if you were giving separate. So it's like you would say that, kind of pause, and then am I hearing you right? Am I correct on that? Yes. Then you can do that.
Okay.
But you can also just kind of leave it and see as well if they, respond. But sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you there.
No, but I think the way that Christine introduces concepts to highlight to her clients, she does very, very good. So she would say typically, what I'm hearing, or she would say, no, I'm just thinking of Christine's voice. She would say, how much would you think this issue could be boundaries or the lack of it? And I thought we've had a couple of coaching sessions. So she always brings in a very gentle way, saying, what I'm picking up is, and then she introduces the concept which she notices,
Yeah.
Christine.
That's a better way of saying it. What I'm picking up is, I really like that.
And if you take out the second end of that question, or is it not, or however you phrased it, then it's a perfect question. Because as soon as you throw in or, and then, Is it like this or like that? Then it's leading. It's funneling the client, right, to either kind of
Yeah.
pick one or the other. When you just say boundaries in an open-ended question, then the client can go wherever they want with it.
How did you say that again? Sorry. How did you say that? What I'm hearing is
What I'm hearing is struggling with boundaries. What I'm
Boom.
hearing is possible.
blah blah. What I'm hearing is blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then how accurate would you say that is, or do you think that is, or you
I
know?
don't
Anyways,
think
okay, good.
you should ask how accurate it is. I think by introducing the concept and leaving it in silence, you kind of invite your client anyway into the space. Ollie, what do you think?
Yes, and sorry, I was getting up. The lawnmowers are outside, so my dog is trying so hard not to bark. So I was throwing him a toy to distract him. No, you were exactly right. Yeah.
So we can
In the
just
way
go
you
with,
phrase.
well, what I'm hearing is blah blah blah, and just leave the space,
Boom.
and they can say,
Correct.
that confuses me though, because I saw a competence, because Cheryl had at some point in time in a meeting with me said
Okay.
to me, you need to be a competency is they are going to want to ask you, it's in the marker somewhere, and invites, hold on,
Oh, invites client to present actively listening.
there's
Oh,
something there that is in the competency. I remember that sticking out to me, and that's why that comes to mind, that I need to ask them, is this actually, is my, what I'm hearing actually correct? There's somewhere.
I know what you're saying. I think of it. Oh, it's under trust and safety. 4.4
Invites to
invites to
respond and
respond and
accepts.
accept. Yeah. So inviting the client to respond in a way that the coach's contributions and accepts the client's response. So you don't, yeah. So if you're paraphrasing, yes, you want to make sure you're on track. If you're just asking a question, just ask the question.
So when you say what I'm hearing is,
That's paraphrasing.
yeah. So when you're paraphrasing, you need to clarify.
Yes, there you
When you're
go.
not paraphrasing, you don't need to clarify anything.
Correct. As soon as you put yourself in the question, think of that as, okay, now I'm paraphrasing, so I need to clarify.
Okay,
But
that's
if you're
what I
not putting
thought,
your,
and that's, yeah,
yeah,
okay. Thank you. I don't
yeah,
feel any more confusion.
good. Um, so there we go, clarifying the question. And managing silence. So have you guys talked about the 10 seconds of silence yet? Much? Okay. So
Mhm.
we used to always say, what ultimately is we want to be leaving enough time for our clients to respond and not rush on. And I don't know where the statistic is from, but giving someone 10 seconds is enough time for them to process and come up with their answer. Or so you can, and then answer it. Or they might remain silent, but you will be able to tell by the look on their face and their body language, probably, are they still thinking, right? If they're like looking up and to the left, like that's a sign of like thinking. They're still processing, they're still tracking, they've got all this stuff running in there. But if they're looking at you like, it's probably, you might need to rephrase the question, right? So then you could just throw the question out in different wording. Rephrase the question, not paraphrase, rephrase the question, or ask the client, would you like me to repeat that? So we want to be working towards, not expecting today that you do 10 seconds, but you want to be working towards leaving 10 seconds of silence between asking a question and letting the client answer. But also, when the client is done answering, leaving 10 seconds before you throw out the next question. And I know that seems really long, and it does feel really long when you first get going. So I always say, just work with 3 seconds. Make sure that you're giving 3 seconds. And once 3 seconds doesn't feel awkward, work on 5 seconds. And you can easily practice 3 seconds when you're talking to a friend. And just talking to someone, a friend, where we're so used to finishing each other's sentences and like going back and forth, leaving 3 seconds, 1 second before you go on, really leaves space for your friend to like give you more information, or maybe share that one thing they're not sure if they should share or not. So just with your kids, like practice leaving 3 seconds before you ask or you respond to what they're saying, and see if anything else comes out of their mouths. And you'll be really surprised. I mean, not always does something come out, but you'll be surprised at the times when something does come out. So work on including those silences. And then, of course, we don't want to interrupt our clients. And if you are managing and leaving silence in there, the possibility of you interrupting a client is pretty low, right? And what I find happens when I do like I'm interrupting a client does happen, is I've left that time and it looks like, okay, they're ready for the next question. I start to ask the next question, but really their brain is still turning. And they'll go, oh, you know what I just realized? Something like that, where it's like they have a light bulb moment, or oh, I didn't think about this. And then we just let them talk, right? And they're going to say, oh, no, go on. Nope, you go on. Like, client always wins. Care if you got to go back 5 or 6 times, but let the client finish that thought, obviously. So if you're managing silences, then the possibility of interrupting them is pretty low. And when it does happen, it's cool because they're all of a sudden having awarenesses or new thoughts, or saying something that they had kind of been afraid to say and now are ready to say.
My turn.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
At interruption. So the book that we're reading, The Transformation Code.
Yeah.
He actually uses interruption at certain points, or encourages it. And what happened now with my last coaching session, my client was talking about her dad that passed away, and she felt very guilty that she wasn't there with him, because the whole family is really over the whole globe. And she's all about family and deep, deep connection. But I felt that we were going into storytelling, and I felt we're not traveling with the guilt. So I'm very nervous for Cheryl's feedback. But I intentionally said to her, hold on, I need to interrupt you right now. And I was, as I say, I would really love some feedback, because I think there are times with coaching that interruption is a good thing, but I'm battling a little bit with when is it okay, and when should we use the repetitiveness. If we see that the storytelling is going to be repetitive of something that we've
Mhm.
have maybe discussed, because that's going to take our time away from new thinking and new development. Well, how can we help?
Well, the ICF answer is we don't interrupt.
Okay.
I think what you do, and I'm not listening to the session, so whatever Cheryl tells you, right? It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, because she'll hear the whole thing and your tone of voice and your empathy and all of that, right? That all plays into things. But when
Okay.
someone's kind of storytelling or venting, what you want to do is the minute there's a silence, no 10 seconds, right? Get in there. If there's someone who just keeps going and going and going, the minute you can get in there and ask a question that refers back to the coaching agreement. Keep going back to the coaching agreement. So, you're saying it wasn't about the guilt. She wanted to talk about something else. Then the moment there was time for you to throw a question in there, I would have thrown a question in there that had to do directly getting back to the coaching agreement.
Okay.
And sometimes, the hardest thing to remember, I think for any coach, is, unless you're maybe MCC and you've done 30,000 hours, is wherever the client gets at the end of the session is where the client needed to get. Might not be where we thought they needed to get. There might not be a nice, pretty bow wrapped on their coaching agreement. And I always imagine like, oh, we're putting it in a little box and we're figuring it out and we're wrapping it up. Oh, and then at the end, we're just putting a nice little bow on it because we've accomplished the agreement. We've come up with what they want to work on. They have their great little, activities they're going to do for the week, their goal setting. If that doesn't happen, it wasn't meant to happen. And that can feel messy and hard to just let happen, but we have to kind of just find ways to be okay with it. Because if we try to push them, so you can throw out a question that goes back to the coaching agreement and then they go on and on, right? Then next time you get a second, throw in another question that goes back to the coaching agreement. They go on and on. All you can do is utilize the space that you have to ask questions that point the client back towards the coaching agreement. And it's up to the client ultimately to accomplish that coaching agreement. We're here to guide. So we need to just keep guiding them back to that. If they choose not to listen or answer the questions and go down a different trail with it, then that's where they needed to go with it. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if this happens every time? If this starts happening every time with a client, then that's a much bigger question. And that's a question of, are they coachable? Do they really want to be coached, or do they just want to talk? But when it's in these one-off situations, or it's very deep and there's a lot of layers, you just kind of try to guide back as best as you can. But very rarely do we see someone pay for a coach and then they show up because they just want to talk, right? If they're paying for a coach, they really want to work on something. They really want to see transformation or accomplish this goal. So if it's happening more than once, or 3 times, I would say probably, then there's a bigger question in hand. But in that situation, or the one-off times, when you get the moment, you get the second, throw in your question. Yeah. And here we go with reflecting and summarizing. I don't know what page I'm on, page 2. What we were talking about earlier, inviting them. So we summarize the segments succinctly, right? So we're pulling out quickly. I always like to, I'm very visual. Okay. So I always like to think about it as coaches, we're helping clients connect the dots. And the problem is when you're in the thick of your own stuff, you might see all the dots. One, you might not be aware of all the dots. Okay. That happens all the time. But you might be a pretty emotionally intelligent person, but you're stuck in the middle of it and you're like, I see all these dots and they're overwhelming. As coaches, what we do is we help the client connect the dots. So Rita's struggling with boundary issues. You talk about that, Christine, and you talk about that in a session. 3 sessions later, you're talking about something else. And Christine pulls back from this dot of boundaries and brings into this session and asks, how do your boundaries relate back to this? Or how does boundary setting come into play here? Or how are you going to establish boundaries in this, right? And then that's them going, oh my gosh, I didn't see that. I didn't think about it that way. I just thought boundaries are over here and it's rules and it's, black and white. And you're right. Like even here in this gray area of whatever it is, I still have to think through boundaries and what I feel comfortable with. Right. And then there is the inviting the client. So checking for accuracy. So in the trust and safety, it this doesn't, how do I want to say this? We're talking about listening, but it is interesting that the accuracy actually kind of goes back a little bit to trust and safety. But again, here we go, great illustration. If we're actively listening, we're doing it, we're summarizing, and we're checking in with them, we're inviting them to respond to the summaries, then by default, we are cultivating trust and safety. We are by default being present, right? So you see how it kind of like, we can get this one down and really focus on this one, the others will start happening. It's just like a snowball effect. Even though active listening is what? Core competency 5, right? So it's like 5 in, but really if you do 5 really well, hopefully 2, 3, and 4 are kind of gonna, in a way, take care of themselves. They start the snowball rolling. And then when we are listening, we do want to, back to body language and listening between the lines. I think the listening between the lines comes in play here as far as emotional cues, right? So, you might go, I don't know, I can't focus on all of this new stuff and try to listen between the lines. That's fine. But you're a woman, we pick up on the emotional cues, right? We pick up on the body language, the facial expressions, tone of voice, the pace, excitement, not excited, right? Ask about those, right? So if a client's like, yeah, I'm so excited to do that. I cannot wait to get married on the 29th. It's like, I'm 48 and I'm so excited. It's really happening. What do you want to be? Holly, I'm not hearing a lot of excitement in your voice right now. No, you'd want to, ask a question. I hear you saying that you're excited, but your tone of voice is not illustrating that. What's going on for you right now? Oh, well, I'm officiating a wedding on Sunday or Saturday, and it's my fiance's birthday on Sunday. and I'm trying to pack up before he arrives tomorrow. So I guess I am super excited, but I just need to get through this weekend first, and then I can fully enter into that excitement. Okay, that makes sense. I just had this conversation with my fiance because I'm like, it's not that I'm not excited. I really am. But when I start to go there and I go there, I'm not doing this stuff. And I've got to be practicing because I'm officiating someone else's wedding. So I hope that they are practicing. My officiant is practicing for our wedding. So we want to ask about pay attention to the emotions that we're seeing and hearing in the client. And we want to use our empathy to engage with those emotions. And if we don't have the empathy, if we're not showing the empathy in our face, in our tone of voice, in the follow-up question, like gently following up with a question when you sense there's a bigger thing going on that they're maybe afraid to talk about, or you're about to connect some dots, but there's some sensitive dots, right? Doing that empathetically is going to, back to that trust and safety, like they're not going to feel judgment to admit that or to realize the truth of those dots that you're connecting. And just responding to their emotions in general. So ways that we can work on mastering our active listening. So like I said, you can practice like just 2-3 seconds of silence with your friends and family members. And it's really funny because you'll find, man, I don't have to talk as much. I kind of just get to sit here. The pressure's off me. But sorry, dog. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on, Christine.
You know what I found in practicing that? In waiting those 3 seconds? What I heard back was, what's wrong? You're not responding to me. What's going on? Are you okay? And those were the responses I got, which really let me know just how fast we respond to each other, because it was out of the norm not to be doing that.
Right. And like, I think it has so much power when, you say to them, oh, I wasn't sure if you were finished.
And I've done it with strangers and people that I don't talk with on a regular basis, and they didn't notice anything. To them, they were just like, okay, cool, interesting. So
good point.
I noticed that it's the people that I talk with on a very regular basis, they're used to me responding quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're not looking at how they're responding, they're looking at how I'm responding, and they're seeing it as out of the norm. Yet, if when I meet someone, I just don't respond that quick, they get just used to that's how I am.
Correct.
And it's easier to continue that route, I'm finding.
Yeah. And I find when I do it with my friends, it ends up turning into a nice little coaching session. And like I said, takes the pressure off me because I leave space for them to talk, and they end up talking for 30 minutes instead of me cutting in every 5 minutes. And all of a sudden they're going, Holly, this is the best conversation I've ever had. And I'm thinking, I mumbled 10 words, when I normally would have said 1,000 words, whatever. Right. So when go Rita.
Something is coming up for me that I would like to share with you guys. And I'm thinking by myself, how empowering it is when somebody trusts you enough to keep quiet.
Yeah. So one thing I think that's so important to do before we enter into a session with a client, pull out the notes, look at the last session, all of those things, but to really take a few moments for ourselves to clear the spaces in our mind. Whether it's meditate, whether it's pray, whether it's quickly make a list and send it off to the side, but really thinking about, your brain is filled with all of this stuff, and putting all this stuff that's in your brain, just put it in a bubble and then blow it away. Now, it's not going to go too far away. You can grab it back when it's time. Okay. So don't get nervous, but put it in a bubble and blow it away so that you can mentally really enter in with that client. And that's been a good practice for me. After I've looked over the notes, like just taking for me a few minutes to take some deep breaths. I pray or focus on something, and then it's time for the session. Would it be okay if we took our break now,
Mhm.
and then because I really need the restroom.
Me
And
too.
and then we'll finish this last part real quick and we'll do our session. So let's come back at 25 after the hour. Is that
Okay.
good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so this last, well, it's not the last page, but it's the last like page of content is the communication aspect. So these are things that we want. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell. Sounded like my earbuds weren't working. These are the different things that we want to be listening for while we're in coaching sessions, right? So what's the content that they're talking about? Context, emotions. We really want to be listening though for beliefs and values. And that's a really key thing, one, to listen to, but two, to be kind of keeping track of for with when it comes to your clients, because you might find, they might come to you saying they're upset or they're struggling with something. And as they're telling you this, you're thinking, man, this does, like, what they're attempting to do, this does not align with their values, or this does not align with their beliefs. So then pulling that piece, connecting that dot of values to the decision they're currently trying to make or do or whatever, is really key and huge. So, and also I think if a client brings up a belief or a value, especially when you first start working with them, this would be a good thing to check in with, right? So what I'm hearing you say is you really value family. Am I correct? Is that right? How does that feel to you? And get them to respond to that and own that. We obviously want to be listening for their goals and their desires. Another one that's really big is fears and challenges. And I think this is one that we can easily read and go, oh yeah, of course. But what I think we miss sometimes is that something might not be a fear for us, might not be a fear at all. In fact, someone might say to us, yeah, I have a fear of walking on grass. I mean, he'd probably kind of laugh, right? But the reality is, if they have a fear of walking on grass, that really is a fear for them. So it might not be a fear for us, but it is a legitimate fear for other people. Might not be a challenge for us at all, but it might be a legitimate challenge for our client. So we really want to listen for that. And when, this is where you would pick up on emotions, words that they're saying, and then would probably want to paraphrase and check in with them on what I'm hearing you say is you're afraid to walk on grass. I don't know what else to say. But checking in and stating it that way, right? Because maybe in their mind, they're not thinking it's a fear. But as soon as they're able to label it, okay, now, yes, that's what this is. Okay, now I can work on this. Because I see the big picture, not the big picture, but I have a box to put it in, or I've worked through other fears before and I know how to do that. So I think bringing values to their attention every time and fears to their attention are paramount to really helping our clients and for them to take really big leaps when they tune into those things. Of course, energy levels, we've talked about that, the nonverbal cues, patterns in their speech, right? Patterns in, just even like the words they say. If a client uses a word to describe something that you might not use, can't think of a quick example. Okay, so like in the United States, we say sweater, but a lot of other places would say jumper, right? So this is a hard one, but I've had to do it when I lived in Ireland. You would want to make sure when you're talking to your client that when you're asking them about their jumper, you're asking about their jumper, not their sweater. Or you don't want to ask an Irish person about their pants because that's their underwear. You want to talk about their trousers. Clue in to words they're using and do your best to use their words. Okay, that's a really extreme example, but I think it really shows the point that there's a lot of words out there in the English language to describe one thing. And so if we can clue into their words, then the communication is going to be that much stronger, and that's really going to show them we're listening. We do want to really listen for one, if the client's being judgmental of something, and empathetically bring that to their attention, or maybe challenge it, right? Because maybe they don't realize they're being judgmental. The other one is just self-deprecation, putting ourselves down. And when a client is doing that, bringing that to their attention, and that simply can be, you know, them stating, I'm never going to be able to drive. You know, but actually that's what the client's working on, right? Is they're working on learning to drive. They're just really frustrated right now. So you would say to the client, well, what's a positive way? How can we like flip that statement? What's a positive way to think about this? Or at least not a negative way, right? The client would come up with, I'm working towards learning to drive. One day this won't be so hard. Things like that, because we just don't even hear ourselves putting ourselves down so much. Really want to listen for discrepancies. So this goes back to the beliefs and the values. Is when things aren't aligning, we need to bring it to their attention. So especially when it comes to values, what happens, I think, for a lot of people is they really don't have a conscious idea of what their values are. They probably know it for the company they work with, but have they as a family, have they as just a person sat down and thought about their top values? Because usually when people don't feel aligned, when they feel like they're just missing it, they can't figure it out, it's probably because they're going after something that doesn't align with their values. Or that's what they're going after is fine, but the way they're going about it doesn't line up with their values, right? So, you know, they see a coworker go after this goal and they did it this way. Well, this person was single, no children, no pets, expendable income. This person over here has a family and kids and pets. They can't go about accomplishing it at the same speed and in the same way. And when they're trying to, and it's not aligning, and they think, oh gosh, I'm just not ever meant to do this or accomplish this, that's not the case. The case is just, no, what are your values, your beliefs, and then how does accomplishing this fit into that, right? And then limiting beliefs. So whenever we catch someone, like I was saying there with like the negative, I'll never learn to drive. That's a limiting belief. I'll never be good at this. I'll never learn German. That is a limiting belief. And what we want to do is we want to flip that. And we want the client to change the script. So again, visual mind. When I think about a limiting belief, I think about when a light switch is off and it's dark. We want the client to turn the switch on and bring light in. We want them to look at it in a positive way. If our client is thinking something limited and negative, we want to flip the switch. Now, a lot of things in life, we can't just flip a switch. That is fake. That is what you see on Instagram and the real life photo, right? Okay, we don't want our clients doing that. It might be a process to get them, to fully have the light switch flipped back on. But just that simple image of helping them change it to a better belief, just a better belief. What would just be a better belief be for you right now? Better belief that you could hold on to in this next week moving forward. Any questions or thoughts as far as the things that we want to be listening for? So we're just gonna jump into our coaching because one, we can't pass the ball, there's not enough of us. And two, I can't read from any book because I already packed it away. Forgot that was in this lesson. So we are going to jump into our coaching session. Okay, so Rita, you're coaching today?
Yeah.
You feeling awake enough? See you starting to go downhill. I feel bad.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing from you, Rita, is you're slowly going downhill in your amount of energy. Trying to repeat back to you what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I'm sometimes when I get really pensive, almost a calmness. So just you're so used to the go, 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 and people coming in and out and phone
Yeah.
ringing, and something when you just connect and calm and listen actively. Yeah, interesting.
What is today's date? 19th.
19th.
Woo. Okay, so you guys will have 30 minutes. Again, if you need to go a little bit longer, that's fine as well. It's just going to take you 2 or 3 more minutes to tie the bow on top of that little pretty gift that you've made. I would rather you tie the bow and make it pretty.
Thanks, Ollie.
You're welcome. Yeah. So that would give you guys until 10 minutes after the next. Okay. So I'm going to leave you ladies to it.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
That is a big sigh.
Yeah. I feel it all of a sudden, thinking about what I want to work through in the session.
Okay. So I'd like to invite you. Just close your eyes for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. Everything in this session is confidential. This is a safe space. And when you're ready to focus on you let me know and we'll stop.
I'm ready.
Okay. What do you want to focus on today?
Where to put my focus? I find since I heard last week that I will not have a job at the end of November or December. Right now, it's slated for the end of November in my contract, but we were supposed to get more funding, but it's not going to happen. And so funding was now supposed to last till the end of December, but it doesn't have to. So according to the boss, right? Depends on our workload. So really I have to have all my clients done by November 30th. And I have to have my business going. And I'm all of a sudden overwhelmed with where to put my time. Like I just got too many things and I don't know what I'm going to prioritize. I feel right now like I'm just bouncing from one thing to another to another. And there's other factors in there as well that I need to consider. So, yeah, I just need to figure that out.
So realizing there's a lot of things, what do you feel drawn to tonight? What would you like to focus on?
Um, I want to have a have all my tasks in a list of priorities, like say take a look at everything I need to do, not everything, but different, how do I say it? So like I need to train my dogs, I need to start a business, I need to clean up clients, like different things that I need to do. I want to determine which one I'm going to do first or which two I'm going to focus on first or three or whatever that looks like.
So if we need to measure if we're making progress, how would you do that?
I'd probably do that by how close I am to meeting the goal, how many things I've prioritized. And I suppose also how I'm feeling, because I feel really stressed about it. Um, I feel really emotional just talking about it. I obviously have a lot on my plate. So I just got to figure that out. So yeah, if that's how I would measure it, by feeling more relaxed because I have a focus.
Okay. So tell me where you feeling stressed on a 0 to 10.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Tell me where's your stress level on 0 to 10?
It's probably at a 9.
Okay. Okay. What would this mean to you if we could figure this out tonight?
It would mean that I used to live in a very chaotic lifestyle and I hated it and I didn't know how to change it. And then I ended up figuring out how to change it. And so I lead a very peaceful, relaxed lifestyle, pretty much all the time. And this is the first time in a good couple years that I've really felt a, a lot of stress and chaos. And so it would mean for me not going back to that feeling that I used to feel before, and continuing on with my path of being in control of my life and making decisions that are in line with supporting a healthy emotional state. It's pretty important to me.
Okay. Okay. What do you need to address to achieve this?
I guess I need to figure out what I'm not going to worry about right now. What am I just going to let go right now and not be concerned about? Or, half-ass it, or whatever it is I need to do. I need to figure out, what I'm not going to worry about to leave space for the greatest priorities right now.
I'm almost aware of two lists. The priority list and the priority list not to worry. Um,
Yeah, basically just what's the priority list? And if it doesn't make the priority list, I don't have to be concerned right now, because come November or the end of November,
just feel it.
oh my goodness, come the end of November, my son comes home. Obviously, I miss him a lot, right? I can't even barely talk about him coming home without losing my mind. And I talk to him regularly. It's just I only get to see him once a year, and I never even know if that's going to happen for sure. Anyways, oh, okay. Come the end of November, he comes home, and I don't work my job anymore. I'm so relieved to not have my job anymore. You have no idea. I can't wait till it's over. Like every day now. And it's funny, I didn't realize how much I wanted it to be over. But maybe I did, because I haven't coached in years. And I didn't even ever think I would coach again. And then over a few month period, I thought, you know what? I just really need to do this. And then I got in this course, and here I am on this path, and it's so amazing. And now I just can't wait to be done this job that, oh, anyways. So all I have to do is get through the next couple months. And then I can focus on my coaching, seeing my son when he's here, living this life of emotional freedom and peace that I'm used to. So I guess really my priority list to me looks like, how am I going to stay sane over the next 2 months?
And that's a pretty different list. What's coming up for you?
Funny, I didn't even think about it until this session, but just right now at this moment, how much I miss my son. It weighs on me so much. I mean, I know sometimes I know what he's doing. Like right now, he's in Bali and he keeps sending me pictures, and I know what he's doing, but for the most part, I don't know unless I look on Google and find that he's at a port. But I don't know what he's doing from one place to the next. Sometimes he'll send me a message and tell me that they're sailing through a typhoon in the middle of some ocean somewhere across the world. But I always think, what if he doesn't make it home? And I always try to stuff it away. Because what do I do with it, right? It's his life and it's his world and he loves it and I support him in that. But I don't know why that's coming up for me because I need to focus on this priority list. I guess I'm
Maybe,
already preparing for him to come home, is what it is. And that's a part of my priority list, come to
okay.
think of it.
Mhm. I think you being a mother that just loves her son with her whole being.
I do. He's the most impressive person ever. And he teaches me so much. He's so inspiring. Uh, and I think that's too. I think I'm just stressed out because I I do so much prep for when he comes home. It's
Um,
like 2 months of prep for him to come home at Christmas. Well, it might only be a month this year. And now that I think about it, why does he keep coming to mind? Because he's the top priority, which I haven't even acknowledged till right now. And I know he's the top priority. I guess I just didn't think of it till right now that I didn't put him in this list. Except now I just did, and I all of a sudden feel so much better. Strange.
if I can reflect back of what I just saw, is your heart just said, let's get our priorities straight. Son, number one, family, connectedness. That will always be number one.
Yeah. Huh. Hmm. Now I'm just writing down all the things. So I have this, I'm supposed to be training my dogs. And I went on this vacation and I was going to train my dogs during this vacation. And then I thought, you know what? I started doing it. And then I felt like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming for me. So I connected with a dog trainer who will come into the house and support me with this endeavor. And then she wasn't able to start right away. And then I found out I was losing my job. So I haven't started training my dogs yet. And thank goodness, because I can't do it right now. So I phoned her and told her, look, I have to put this on hold for like 2 months. She said, okay, cool. So that's really good. Um, and you know, it's funny. I am normally so naturally put my son first. It's just my life.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, finding out I'm losing my job, and there's just so much all of a sudden on my plate to get that done. And my boss is just, that's the other issue, actually. She drains me emotionally. And it's funny because I very rarely talk to her. She doesn't really know anything about what I do in my job. She doesn't micromanage. She leaves me to do what I need to do. But when I do talk with her, it's just so, ugh, it's just not emotionally good for me. And now I feel like I'm going to have to talk with her a lot in closing out all of this. So I think that's a huge part of my overwhelm, and it's overtaking what I would normally feel is such a, I just normally handle things with such ease, and I don't feel like I'm doing that right now.
Okay. So on the stress measure, we're just now on a 9. What's happening with that measure?
Oh, it's definitely significantly down. I'd say probably a 5 right now.
Mhm.
Just realizing some things. I'm writing as I'm literally shifting priority things as we're talking, because I've been creating this list, and as we're talking and these realizations are hitting me, I'm moving things in that priority line. And so it's funny, when I first started, I had written down my course and closing out clients and then cleaning my house and doing the dogs, and my son wasn't on there. And since we've been talking, I've moved him up to number 1. Um, I've removed cleaning my house completely. There's a lady down the road I can hire to clean my house if I need to. You know, I've put me time on the list because I just want to get in my pottery studio pretty badly right now. So now with my son's arrival, I feel free to get his advent calendar started and set aside time for that. I have a program I use called Trevor AI, and it blocks out time for me. I just put my tasks in there, and if I that day I wasn't able to get to it for some reason, it automatically reschedules things for me in different slots using AI to do it. So that's the easy part. All I got to do is plug this in, and my AI program does the rest for all the scheduling. So I don't really have to do a whole lot. I just have to figure this part out. So I just got to set aside time to get my son's room done and his advent calendar filled. I make his pillows. I got to get his Christmas baking done. Like I always do, like welcome home things, get the trees decorated in his bedroom and get all of his stuff done. Because when he comes home, he's going to say, "Oh, Mom, you do this every year. You don't have to do all this food." And oh my gosh, Mom, you're so ridiculous. And then through the whole vacation, he says, "But I really love the Oreos." and all the things the whole time. So, I mean, I know it's meaningful to him, and that's what makes it meaningful to me. So now I have his arrival, number one. Number two, my course for coaching, because that's my future. Number three, closing out my clients, because that's my past. Get rid of that. And those two things are done during the day, and then getting some me time in on the weekends. And every night I have me time, like I hop in my hot tub every single night for a half an hour and just chill out and stuff. And then I have making sure I'm a dog parent, but they're just kind of here. So, and my house, well, I don't even care. I'll like hire someone if I need to.
How does that feel?
It feels a lot better. And I think too, this course is really important to me. And I don't mean passing it, I mean excelling at it and feeling competent with what I'm learning and doing. And I haven't been giving it the time it deserves. I've barely done my assignments. And last time I did my course with WCI, I did my assignments as I went all the time. They were just done. And I'm not doing that right now. So I need to get on there and I need to do those assignments. I haven't read the book I'm supposed to read, and I need to do that. So I think that's a huge part of it. I don't feel like I'm progressing with my course because I'm not in action.
Mm. How much do you need action to actually progress in something?
I don't know. I think it is, I just need to touch it every day. You know, I need to feel like I've read my chapter before I go into my next day of the course so that I can be prepared with questions. You know, I just have basic criteria like that. I need to be on top of it, really. And I don't really have a how long it takes or how much per day or how much time per day. I just have what I just need to fit that in. So I need to do that. I've let my overwhelm me lately. And I've also let my upset with my son being gone overwhelm me. I'm usually really good with being in touch with my feelings, so it's a little surprising to me that I haven't really acknowledged that. But this is the first time I felt overwhelmed and cried about it, and I don't know, I just didn't feel it till today, maybe because I'm here and you're in front of me, and I have the ability to just be me when you're here. Thank you for that.
Okay. There's a lot of emotion. Do you feel we need to explore that?
No, I find I have the greatest emotion when I feel gratitude. And when it surrounds my son, that's the two times where it's like, ah. So I can't say thank you to someone or something like that without being all cryy and everything. So I'm good. I just I feel like I just need to get on before like the end of today. I just need to get into my program and schedule my stuff in. And, you know, schedule like an hour a day right now for my son and an hour a day for my course. And closing out my clients is done all darn day every day. And I leave soon, actually, for my last vacation till my son comes home. I don't leave. I'm staying at home. So I'm spending the whole time, the whole week crafting. I'm going for a crafting weekend with my ladies to a retreat. And then I'm spending the other 4 days in my pottery studio. So I'll get a good amount of time done there. And I don't have to do that the whole time. I can also spend some time doing what I want to do, my course, um, getting my son's stuff done, ordering his pillowcases so I can get them made for him. And because I put a welcome home saying on them every year, I make him new ones. And so I'm gonna, oh, I forgot about that time till right now. I feel a real relief having that.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing is too, I'm freaking out now too, which I got to fit it in here, is uh, the Halloween boxes. We start making them in August because we're crazy and I don't know why we ever started it. But every year, my husband and I make these elaborate Halloween treat boxes to give to all the kids in the neighborhood. And this last year, we were on the radio over these Halloween boxes. So I think we'll have more kids this year. And I forget what last year we made these monster boxes, and this year they're made out of wood because we have a laser wood cutter. And this year I'm making witches' cauldrons. So I have to make time for that too.
I think there's a couple of things, and I'm wondering what we can celebrate in this session.
Oh, that. All of a sudden feel a little more overwhelmed because of the Halloween boxes,
Mm-hmm.
but I just got a plan. It's okay. It's okay. I'll do all the cutting and my husband will do all the assembling. I got it covered. Okay. What can I celebrate out of this session? That I am more in touch with how I feel. And I figured out my priority list now reflects my values.
Well done.
Hmm?
Well done.
Thank you. And as long as it reflects my values, I don't have to care about anything else. And if my house is a mess because the lady can't come clean it, if someone comes to my house and they don't like it, they can pick up a broom. I'm not opposed to that. So I don't really have a lot I actually have to worry about except the necessities. And they're getting scheduled today.
So in closing and summary for our session, you right in the beginning started and you felt very overwhelmed and you've got this priority list And everything was about job, the work, and then suddenly Christine popped out. Christine mommy popped out. And she's like, hang on, I am absolutely abandoning one of my biggest values, which is my family. You brought that beautifully in. And right at the end of the session, even the community value came in, thinking of the boxes that you really feel connection to. And we traveled through to a way of looking at the next couple of months with priorities. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds better than I would have put it, because I didn't recognize about the community value until you just said it. It's accurate.
What do you need to close our session today?
Nothing. I'd say we're done. I got my priority list created as we were going. It was being created based on shifts and what we were talking about. I feel better. Feel happy with my progress. Feel like I have focus. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you for showing me your beautiful soul. Any feedback, any changes you want to make to our next session?
No, I can't think of any. I felt like I liked that you gave me the time and the space to just ramble. I find when I ramble, I tend to come up with things, and so it was really good having that space. And you were just there when I was crying and just we're just there. And that's really, I suppose for me, the best things that I can get out of my session. Yeah, I want to get what I came here to get in the beginning, but those are a huge part of how I'm going to get there. So I can't think of any changes right now. Thank you.
My honor. Thank you.
That was good. If they want to pick up a broom, they can feel free. So Rita, how are you feeling about the session? Your coaching?
I don't think it's probably the best way of assessing. For me, I always see if I can feel my clients. Could I hear the heart beat? And I really just felt connected. And tonight, for the first time since we started the course, I wasn't worried about the market. I just felt Christine needs me to be fully present without market. I had my cheat sheet. I glanced a couple of times at it and I felt that moment I was losing Christine. And I decided to run the risk to leave the cheat sheet and just to be present, because this is important. And for me, I almost think if it's maybe a more or less layered session, less emotional, hang on to the cheat sheet, push, you know, ramp up your, what do you call it?
Challenging.
Your challenge. There you go.
Yeah.
You know, ramp up the challenge. But I think when you're at emotional sessions, create more space for them to just travel where they need to travel.
Yeah. What's something that you would like to work on for your next coaching session?
Maybe what I should do is watch this session again and see what was pivotal questions that I missed, because I didn't ask a lot of questions. And kind of see if I missed something. One thing that pops up on my mind is I must be very, very aware that I might be feeling something that my client is not. So I will have to be careful of assumptions. I'll have to be careful. I'll have to be. It's just so difficult when it's an emotional session to ask them. You know,
I know.
I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. Am I on the right track? It's kind of like,
yeah, no, no. And I think you handled it beautifully by repeatedly asking her just what's coming up for you, or how does that feel? I think that's how you do that when it's an emotional session. Yeah. Well, I think that you were so focused and listening and present that it was just a great example of like the snowball effect. Like you got it started and it just kept going. Now, Christine is a connect the dots herself kind of gal, and that's awesome. So, but you were listening and still continuing that with her as she went along. I think you did a fabulous job. Speaking of agreements and getting that all set up that we were speaking about earlier, you did a really good job of asking those questions and really getting her to get nitpicky and get a measurable, you know, what is it going to mean for me kind of outcome. And so I think she really took ownership of the session and what she wanted to get out of it. Awesome job with the silence. It was really good. And I just thought, like I was saying, I think you did a really good job of, with the active listening, like exploring the energy, because where you kept tapping into that emotion, that energy, what's coming up for you right now. Let me reflect back on what I saw. How does that feel to have that? When she was talking about having this list, like she's got it written down and she repeated it back to you, and you know, the response was, how does that feel? Right. So I think those are really great questions, because she was connecting the dots and she was going, right? She was getting through the coaching session. And so you knew she was going to come to this outcome, but you're still asking those really powerful questions in between that we don't usually ask ourselves when, you know, we're processing something
Mhm.
I think the only thing that was really missing, and oh wait, I want to say, because when I was with you guys last time, we talked a lot about partnering to close with the client. How do we summarize? How do we close? And we talked about, just do the coaching agreement and then like some things that you saw. And you did it so great. I circled that. So that was a really good close. And even Christine like acknowledged it, like, oh, I didn't even think about it. Like, and what were we just learning? Like, people don't even connect that kind of dots sometimes. And so I think the only things that could have really been added were, what might get in your way kind of question. And I think ultimately for Christine, it wasn't so much what's going to get in your way. I think the question that was missed was who's going to help hold you accountable to keeping these priorities really straight, because it was so powerful for her when it all shifted in the right direction. But we can see how so easily it's going to unshift again when she talks to her boss or when she gets that bad client. And so who can help bring her back, to ground her into her priorities. And I think that's always kind of an easy one to skim over at the end. But I think especially, it's always important. It's a part of our core markers. But I just saw that specifically here with Christine, like, how is she gonna hold on to this? Because I don't want to scare you, Christine. You said, I have a few months. And I'm thinking, girl, you literally have you have 2 months, you have 8 weeks. Like, so, because I'm thinking, is she thinking in her head, I've got weeks, like we're already almost done with September. So, you're going to need that grounding, coming back to what's the priority here.
I was very tempted to say at some point, you realize it's 2.5 months, 2 months and 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I would kill my coach if she
I know, right?
right now.
I know, you were very wise. I was just the observer.
No.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think the other thing, Holly, and Christine, this is an open invite. I think the other thing is, this is why you typically have a coaching relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
next week, when I
Right.
see Christine, the first thing would be, it was a very heavy session last time.
Yeah.
What happened with accountability? Kind of just give her the space this week.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, sometimes I'm a bit slow, so I will have this big aha moment, and it takes me a
Mm-hmm.
whole week to sort it kind of really out. And then when you get with your coach again, and they're like, okay, give me feedback, and okay, so we slipped this, we knit this, we managed this, we didn't manage this, and then it's almost like the solidifying happens. But again, I hear what you say. I think it's very valid to always ask the question, who can hold you accountable? How are we going to do this? Because it was so layered.
Yeah, and I think the reason we want to make sure that we want to have them have someone else outside of us, like they're paying us to hold them accountable. And when you are with real clients, you guys know you have much more time to talk back, and ask those questions. But the importance of them learning these skills so they can continue to use them. We kind of, to be a really successful coach, I think you're actually kind of working yourself out of a job. Because I think like a good coach can coach themselves. A good, someone who's learned from a good coach is going to be able to kind of coach themselves. And like, I find that I like to do that when I blow dry my hair. Like, what do we got to do today? What's the priority? Like, and we want our clients to like take that with them. right? And we want them to realize like, oh, I think I might need to bring someone else in on this because I need to do this, but I'm going to despise it every step of the way, and I'm going to need someone to help me. So yeah, by doing those things, helping them look at their outside world and bringing people in. Yeah.
Holly, could it be conducive? Because somewhere tonight I felt I wanted to give Christine permission to say, you don't have to figure out everything in this next half an hour. So if you want us to park something for a next session, we could do that. Does it? Yeah. What did the ICF say about that?
I mean, if she is, I think so first of all, that wouldn't work in here with just 30 minutes because then you're opening another can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
In the real life with a client, I think you just would have to kind of judge, like, so when I was saying like wherever the client gets is where the client needed to go. And so Christine said 2 to 3 tasks. And if she would have just got stuck on one task, like, I just don't know how the heck I'm going to finish this job by the end of November and not lose my mind. And that really ended up being the session, right? Then like the client's going to pull out what they really need. But if you're in a session and you do feel like the client has bit off more than they can chew, that's where the coaching agreement, is going to come in, and we want them to get really, really specific. So if you're noticing it coming up later in the session, I think you would just go back to, or I would go back to a coaching agreement kind of question. So, give an example. I'm blanking. What's an example? So with the time, you could say with the time we have left, right? And start the question that way. Or go back to, what I would go, I'm trying to, I'm thinking about these things now that we've been talking for a few minutes. What do you think you need to address right now? Because now they've, if they've opened a lot more cans of worms, or they're feeling really overwhelmed with all that they bit off, and you're realizing it's too much and they're feeling it's too much, something like that, giving them that permission without saying, hey, I give you permission. You're just asking, how do you want to narrow that down? Or what's the one that we could tackle right now that would bring you the most amount of stress relief? Or what's the one thing, if you could wipe it off your plate, you would feel less overwhelmed? Yeah. And when you are with a client on an ongoing basis and those things come up, and you set them off to the side, and you feel like you might need to say, how would it feel if we focused on, how would it feel if we picked one of these, had them pick one, and then table them, and then you can ask about them in the next session, see if they want to address those or not.
Mm,
And maybe they will have addressed them during the week and they don't need readdressed.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have to go, you guys. I have a
Okay.
client that's sitting in a Zoom meeting right now waiting for me.
No problem. I'll see you on Thursday. No, I'll see you on Tuesday.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
see you on Tuesday.
Bye.
Thank you,
Okay,
Rita.
Celine. Take
Okay,
care.
bye.
Cheers.
I hope you get discharged tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's definite. So not,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's definite. Taking home the last 2 days of the IV, doing that at home.
Okay.
So, and it's going to be
Okay.
freezing cold this weekend. So
Oh, it
we
is.
decided heaters and movies. So that's it. That's what we're doing.
How are
It
you
takes
going to
2
get
minutes,
home?
please.
Oh.
A friend of mine is picking me up.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you did a wonderful job. You're a really beautiful coach. Beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
So be encouraged.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something, I mean, when I put my hand to my heart, that's actually our sign in the family that I feel you, I've got you. You know? And
Yeah.
I was wondering if that conveyed the message, you know, instead of saying, uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I think with you that really does work because, and especially you do it since you're used to doing it, you're doing it at those times when the emotions are at their biggest or at their height, or when that problem has been solved, the light bulb has gone off, you know, when they're excited. I think it really is effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. We'll go speak to whoever nurse needs you and safe home. Get home safe.
Thank you. When is your wedding?
The 29th.
29th, 10 days. Oh.
I know, but I gotta officiate someone else's on Saturday first.
Oh.
And I'm packing my house.
Oh.
So talk about my overwhelm. We don't got time, girl. That's why I'm
Don't
like,
have
you
time.
all need a session. I'm here.
Okay, let
I
me know
got
when you
y'all
need me.
covered. Yeah, I'm here. So
Oh,
okay,
shame.
I'll see you on
Thank you.
Tuesday. You're
Okay,
welcome.
take loads of care.
I will. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.